Owain and I. Owain is Learning Innovator in the Learning and Teaching Group, and part of his responsibility is to work on raising achievement with boys. And we're going to look at sort of some strategies to share with you today on that. And I just wanted to take people back who were a couple of years ago. We had a Learning and Teaching Group sharing session with learning leaders, and the Learning and Teaching Group did focus as part of their work on strategies for boys. And this was a fantastic web page that Lucy Barros put together, and really part of this morning is really to sort of make people aware of this. And this is a really good refresher, but Owain and I have also got some other strategies as well. And you can see here, it's linked to different sort of styles of learning, and also, if I click on here, and hope by magic that it all works, you can actually see some of the sort of interesting, fantastic. You can't see anything. Clearly that's how boys work. It's clearly blank, and then all of a sudden the light comes on. There's whole sorts, you probably can't see from there, but different questions about sort of the various sort of barriers to learning, or the various issues that boys can bring to the classroom. And literally clicking on the different limbs: attitude to learning, peer pressure, fear of failure, teacher relationship. There's lots of things that will answer that as well. I'm just going to go back to the home page, and hopefully it will go back fairly quickly, and just hand over to Owain just to talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah. So there are many trialled and tested resources on the website, and one of them is writing frames, which help solve the barriers to writing. This is one from history, and it works really well in allowing students to break down the task into small components. And as you can see, this is a then result, and the student structured and wrote the response in a structured and coherent fashion. There are keywords on the left, and there's information allowing the student to kind of know what an excellent piece of work looks like. Along with this, there's another strategy called the triads, which also helps in the writing process, and that kind of breaks up the task to allow students to plan, because it is difficult for them to create, think and write at the same time. So have a look on the website. There's many resources on there that have been used before. What we're going to do today is kind of talk to you about 5 new strategies that we'd like you to take away. Perhaps 1 or 2 to trial in your lessons, and myself and Shaun would appreciate if you could give some feedback as to how successful that works in your lesson.
Thanks, Owain. I'll send out the link for that web page so you can have a look at it. But there's some fantastic stuff on there, and some stuff to refresh on as well. One key area with boys particularly is about reflection. It's like trying to, if you're not reflecting or reviewing, particularly with boys, it's literally like trying to fill the bath without the plug in. Everything just leaks out. So reflection is really important. A very quick strategy, 3, 2, 1, that you could probably do at the end of a lesson. And I do this as a no hands up zone, and also give opportunities for the youngsters to quickly discuss when you've introduced the 3 things you've learned today, 2 things you're unsure about, and 1 piece of learning from today that links to learning from the previous lesson. It will give you some thinking about what they have learned, so you can do some forward planning, but also it will get them to make connections with other aspects of learning in lessons previous to that.
Another method of reflection is to use a simple mark scheme for students to peer assess each other's work. I've used this typical one for Key Stage 3 classes, and it focuses on kind of a tick checklist. When students have written a piece of work in their class book, they can use the tick checklist to see if they have demonstrated the P structure in their work. For example, 1 tick would obviously demonstrate a point being made, 2 ticks would be the evidence, 3 ticks would be the explanation. So students can see, when they peer assess each other's work, what they have demonstrated in their book. And it gives them an understanding of a target perhaps. So if there's 2 ticks demonstrated, they know they have provided evidence and made a point, but they need then, as a target, to have the 3 ticks, which is the the explanation, using connectives. For the more able, there's an extra layer of challenge with 4 ticks that I've used as a separate mark scheme, so this can be differentiated. Which again is 4 ticks for being analytical and kind of evaluating the skill. This is not content driven, so it can transfer to different topics and subject matter. So it's based on the focus of using this skill of the technique of P or PED. In addition, this is a method devised by Sally Smith in our department, where we use this for Key Stage 4 classes, and all the historical skills were identified by Sally and placed on a bit of card, with the skill on the front and the definition on the back, and these are 3 examples of that. They were then cut out and placed in small containers like this here, which I think Sally got from Ryman Stationery, 16 in a box. This works really well for Key Stage 4 students after they've done a test, in allowing them to reflect on the skills they have shown in that test. So they have this as a pair, and they pick up the cards and they flick through the skills that they have demonstrated in their answers and the ones they haven't, so they can use this to highlight any areas for improvements. They get to know the skills that they have demonstrated or not, and kind of personalises their own learning.
Okay, right, well, conscious of time, this is really hard to get everything through. Nick this one from Neil Charles, so he gets the plaudits for this. But it was about looking at a broad sort of success criteria, particularly area of learning. We were doing melody writing, and then the students I set off, having set that criteria, then focused on developing melodies. I then refined the criteria and gave them some target codes, as you can see on this piece of work I've written here, DP and EN, which actually related to this more specific criteria. And but they're sort of hidden. It's not obvious what those targets would be. And I would demonstrate areas of this so they were really clear on that specific criteria. And then I paired them up with an able and a less able youngster to go through and get them to think about actually what their target was related to the melody that they've written and that new refined criteria. And then we sort of shared those. They could write those targets down just to make sure they were aware of them. And then I shared the actual codes with them to see where they were. And I gave them I shared them an exemplar melody, which really highlighted those at a very high level. And then with that knowledge, they went off and then refined their piece of work. Okay. Final one comes from Dave Fawcett, doing this in PE. It's an exit ticket done towards the end of the lesson, where a question would be given to the youngsters about the core learning within the lesson. You need time again to give the youngsters an opportunity to think and answer this. And that would be handed in, and then members of staff would actually look at that, know the starting points for the next lesson, understand what's been learned, and also be able to sort of like feed back to the youngsters. But again, it's about reflecting and the youngsters having an opportunity to make sense of the learning, which is really, really important. That's it. Okay. We'll put those resources on Paul. I'll send that up the web page, and I'll send you an email. And thanks to Owain for his work with it as well.
Many, quite before, sorry, before people move, many